Well, hey guys, welcome to today's video. Looking forward to sharing this with you guys today, and I want to look at an important question when it comes to a nursery. Whether it's a tiny little nursery that you're doing from home or from your own personal space, or whether it's a location that you own separate from your house, a true business location. Does location matter? And if so, how much does it matter, and what can you do about your location? Let's look at some of the pros and cons today of locating a nursery and whether or not it's a true strength or a true weakness and how you might think about that in your context. So let's dive in, let's have a look. Now, one of the things that we've all heard forever when it comes to business, but even really specifically to real estate, but real estate applies in the nursery business because you got to have some space to do this, is what matters more than anything is location, location, location. Everybody says it. It seems like everybody believes it. And I think for the most part, it's a good guideline to go by on some of these types of issues when we're talking about what's the best place for something physically to exist, like a business or any type of real estate, whether it's housing or anything else. So let's apply this specifically to the idea of the nursery business. Now, virtually every town in America of any, real size, I don't mean the places that just have one stoplight and, there's plenty of people watching who live in those places, who have lived in those places. But most towns of any size, 10,000, 20,000 people or more, have some sort of really big garden center there in their town. Whether it's a locally owned place that's well established, it's been there for a long, long time, or it's your box stores, your Home Depots, your Menards, your Lowe's, your Walmarts, those stores that have just virtually everything in kind of the landscape and garden genre of retail space. So when we talk about location, those types of places tend to be on the busiest streets, on the 4-lane highways, in congested areas, places that are highly, highly, highly visible. And for good reason. High traffic means a larger potential reach of people who know you're there, who see what you have, and it's easy for them to just drop in, but even on their way to somewhere else. So there are obvious advantages to the places like that kind of sometimes seem like they own the retail space in the garden space. And then maybe there are some things about those locations that are not so advantageous. One of the problems with the giant nurseries, and it's only a problem in so much as there's a lot of people that just don't like those places. And I know this because people tell me this all the time. People come to our nursery and they say things like, those places are too crowded, their prices are too high, and the employees in there don't know anything about these plants. Now, I realize that's kind of a blanket statement, and I realize that every employee at Home Depot isn't ignorant about plants. I get it. You don't have to comment about all of that. I truly understand that there are great people that work at some of these nurseries as far as their knowledge of their product and of what they're doing and of what they sell. That being said, people tell me all the time that they had simple questions to ask somebody in the garden center at one of these places, like, does this do sun or shade? How tall does this plant get? Are there any special planting instructions? Anything special I need to know? And they just find that oftentimes they just can't get a lot of answers for their questions. And that can be a real downside of some of these giant garden centers, is the lack of knowledge of people who are there just because that they need a job. And hey, if you work there, I'm glad you work there, and I'm glad you have a job, and I hope that you're knowledgeable. But it's just a fact that very often a lot of folks at these places, they just don't know anything about the plants that they're selling. So then we know that some of these huge garden center type places, they're on very busy roads, very busy locations. And as far as location goes, and the amount of traffic that passes by these places and the number of people that would be aware that these places are there is incredibly high. It's almost like, if you live in a given town, you can't know that Lowe's Garden Center isn't there. I mean, if you care about plants, if you're a person who's ever looking for plants, you 100% know that that place is there, which is obviously for that place, that's a great thing. But I want to talk about really the real upside of the nurseries like our nursery and the nursery that could be built possibly where you live in your location. And you might think that your location is the thing that's holding you back. And let me just assure you, there may be things holding you back that are real and that are possibly very difficult to overcome, but your location is not that thing. And let me tell you why. Now, for us, we live out in a rural area, and we are about 8 to 10 miles away from any population to speak of, and you get into the 10 to 15 mile range from here, and there's 150, 200,000 people. You go out to 20 miles, there's probably 200 to 250,000 people in a within 20 or 25-minute drive of my location. But person after person comes here and they say, "Oh, I thought I'd never get here," as if they drove, halfway to Australia to get here. And the thing is when they come here, they buy some plants and they very frequently have something very complimentary to say as they're leaving, such as, "Oh, we didn't know this place was here, but we will absolutely be coming back." Or, "You have such a beautiful selection of plants," or, "Your plants look really nice," or, "I'm going to tell my sister that this place is here. She'll be out here next week, I'm sure." And over and over and over again, people come and people come back and people share us with other people, not because our location is a problem, but at least in part because our location is a really good thing. Now, let me just draw a comparison here, and maybe this will make sense to you guys. Now, chances are, if you're watching this, you know of a place that's kind of an out-of-the-way drive that is a place that you really like to go out to eat, at least on special occasions, at least from time to time, or that you would recommend it to somebody who's visiting from out of town. You like to send them to this place because it's unique, it's kind of quaint, it's just different. There's a million Texas Roadhouses in America. There's a million Olive Gardens in America, and kind of these cliched chain places that seem to own the that seem to own the restaurant industry. It's not like they're the only show in town. And sometimes there are people, in fact, a lot of times and a lot of people, they like to go to the place that's out of town, that's out of the way, that's not so visible, that they know is not going to be so crowded. And there's a lot of reasons for this. And that's going to obviously vary person to person and location to location, and somebody might like to visit your nursery for this reason but not for this reason, or it might just be that they don't like people and they don't like dealing with the crowds and dealing with the size of things that in a big box store might tend to make them indecisive and have a hard time shopping for plants. And in the same way that a lot of people like to go to this unique place to go out to dinner just for a special, unique experience, same thing is true for your nursery. People will drive a great distance to come to a nursery that's got unique plants, that's got unique people running the place. I mean, heck, this is Odom's Nursery. Check out our sign. This is the only Odom's Nursery sign like this in the whole world. So there are people who like to go and visit places like that just for the sake of doing something different and being able to actually talk with and meet with the owners while they're there and getting information about plants from the people who actually grew the plants. And your location can be your greatest asset. In fact, you can be absolutely out in the middle of nowhere and have a thriving nursery. I have a nursery, kind of an acquaintance, who lives in a very rural area in Arkansas, 70 miles from any notable population, 70 miles. They do $3,000 and $4,000 days all spring long because over time people have learned of them. They know who they are. They know about their plants. They know some of the things that they specialize in. And people will drive from out of state to come to find great plants, great people at great locations. So sometimes your location, if you think it's a bad location because maybe you live in a neighborhood or you live on a farm that's out in the middle of nowhere, or you just think there's not any real population around you, that can be your greatest asset. It can be the greatest thing about your nursery because somebody wanted to go take a drive on Saturday. Somebody wanted to go try to find a unique experience on a Saturday. So what did they do? They jumped in their car and they drove 30 minutes or an hour or 2 hours to your place. And people will do it all the time if you have nice plants at nice prices and you serve your customers well. Now, let's be completely honest. It's not real often that you talk to anybody or that you experience this yourself where you say, I went to my local box store and bought plants and I got great plants at great prices and I received great customer service. Like, those things matter to people. And a lot of times people leave these places more disgusted than anything, and oh, by the way, they reluctantly left with a few plants. Now, I might be overstating that a little, but not completely. And I think you guys watching know what I mean. I mean, these are not the greatest places in the world to go shopping and to have a great experience. And I think I can say this with some amount of authority because I've experienced it now over and over and over again. People are willing to make the drive if they get good customer service. They're willing to make the drive if they get to make a personal connection. And when they come into your nursery and there's only one or two other cars there, they know that they're not going to be neglected. They know that they're going to be able to get their questions answered. They know that the place isn't too busy for them. And yeah, there are times when we have 10 to 18 cars here at a time, and we can't give every single person the attention that they deserve, but 95% of the time we can, and people keep coming back over and over and over and over again, despite the fact that people pass probably 6 or 7 different places they could get plants on their way here. And that's a pretty special thing. And today, more so than ever, with the internet and with social media, it is actually very, very easy to make your presence known to a very, very large contingent of people. It's not like you can only become known by word of mouth. If that's the way that you choose to do it, that's fine. But if you want your nursery to be known by other people in your county, by other people in your city, whether you're in a neighborhood, a farm, or some sort of semi-rural location, whether you're right in the middle of town, whatever it is not hard at all to get your name in front of thousands and thousands and thousands of people your very first season open. This is some of the stuff that we've been talking about and throwing around in Nursery U in recent discussions is about location and does it matter and how should I go about selling my plants if I'm in this type of location or that type of location. There's always a way to make it work, and something that's really, really, really unique. You don't have to take your plants to the people. You don't have to go to the busiest place. You don't have to go to where the customers are. You don't have to take your plants to the people, because for some reason, and it's a really kind of a special and unique thing to the nursery business, if you have great plants at great prices, people will come and find you, and they will come to you. And I don't care where you are. It's just part of the unique nature of this business, and it's really, really a cool thing. So if you live out in the middle of nowhere like we do, use your location to your advantage. Use it in your marketing. Odom's Country Acres Nursery. I mean, use it, like, be proud of where you are and just own it and let people know that they're going to have a unique experience when they come to your nursery. If you live in an urban environment, advertise yourself as an urban gardener, an urban grower, and that these plants have been grown in the city and they'll survive in the city. I don't even know what that means, but when people see that, they'll think, hey, let's go check this place out. I mean, use your place to your advantage and don't sit around dreaming that you could afford the 3 acres out on the highway so you could be where all the traffic is. It's absolutely not necessary to building a growing, thriving, profitable nursery. Like, use the location that you have and use it to your advantage. You just kind of have to think about why this works. You don't have to manipulate people to make it work. You don't have to compromise yourself to make it work. You just use the space and use the location that you have. You can get started in any space, so always think of ways to work your location to your benefit. So guys, I hope in some way that's helpful to you, just to help you understand that your location doesn't have to be the thing that breaks you. Instead, find ways to let your location be the thing that makes you. You're not trying to be the box store. You're not trying to be the great giant garden center that's in your town. Forget all of that. You need to be you, and you need to be you in the place that you're already in, and realize just how effectively you can do that. Well, guys, I appreciate y'all watching. I love y'all, and we'll see you on the next one.